Welcome to the assembly video for our sunflower tea light lantern. I've been kind of thinking about the various uses for this, and of course, obviously, you've got home decor. But if you are planning a fall-themed wedding, these would make great little, well, I guess you could do favors, depending on the party, the size of the party at the wedding, or little centerpieces on the table, or just kind of scatter them about. But I really think that these would make nice little pieces of home decor. You throw a little electronic tea light in there, just add a little fall ambiance to your living space. And of course, as always, it would make a great gift, just a little surprise for a friend or a loved one. But anyway, we're gonna jump right in here and take a look at our assembly. I've done a little bit of pre-prep, and I'm gonna kind of go through that real quick and show you what we need to do. Now, there are some beautiful panels on here. We've got some graphic 45 paper here. This is from the Enchanted Forest collection. And what I've done beforehand is I've assembled, well, I've just kind of glued the vellum to the back of the panel. We're gonna actually sandwich the vellum between this panel and this structure so that you don't see the vellum from the inside. Give it a nice polished look. Okay, so what I did was, and I'm actually going to put this down on my mat here so you can see it better, is I just did a series of little dots pretty much in these little nooks and crannies here on this little design. Just kind of in these areas here, and then a few on the inside, and then I just did really tiny little dots around the perimeter just to make sure that our vellum doesn't go anywhere. It's probably way too much glue, more than you need. It's not too much, it's just more than you need, but this way it takes the guesswork out of it and you're sure that this is not gonna go anywhere. So that's what you wanna end up with. I'm gonna do that one more time here. So just take a look at where I'm putting my glue nozzle. I figured that was the easiest since it's some of the larger areas. There are some thinner elements to this design, like here in between the petals of the actual sunflower, but I was afraid that if I added glue there, it may kind of seep out onto the vellum and may be visible from the front. But this little area here and then the center, if you get that, get the vellum glued to these little areas, it should be fine, and it seems to be holding very firmly for me. So you're gonna do a total of 6 of these. So you're gonna do that 6 times. You wanna get these all prepared, okay? Now also, what I did here was I pre-prepped some of the additional little embellishments. So to put these together, we're simply taking this shape and a smaller shape and just gluing the smaller one to the center of the larger one. So just a little bit of glue, not a lot, and just pop that right in the center, like so. Kind of take your fingers away, make sure it looks centered, and if it does, you're all done. And move on to the next one. You're going to do that a total of 6 times. Okay. And I'm only putting glue like in the center of this, just in case when I lay this down, I don't get it on center. I can always give it a little bit of a nudge without worrying about excess glue getting all over the place. So there is they're the 2 that I just did, and you'll notice that these are kind of, well, you may not, but these are sitting up. I put a tiny little bit of foam tape on these, and this, instead of using my foam squares, which I have here, you'll notice that this is way thinner. It's probably about half the thickness. For this one here, I just decided to use something a little bit thinner because I didn't like how much it was protruding using my typical foam square. And as always, there's no rule saying that you can't cut these to size. Okay, well, I kind of have to anyway, since this is on a roll. And just grab a tiny little piece, pop it on the back. You don't have to take the backing off it just yet, since we're not ready to apply it yet, but you can kind of do this just to get everything nice and prepped. So you're gonna do that a total of 6 times. Now, if you want, and you don't want to use foam squares, you can absolutely glue this to the center here, and that's actually going to go onto our panel. You can glue it flat. We're just adding a little bit of dimension with our little roll of foam adhesive. Okay, finally, as far as prep work goes, we've got these two little elements, and I just put those together by simply taking the smaller piece and gluing it to the larger piece. This is actually AC Melon is the color, and I hit this with a little bit of like a red-orange ink before I put it on here. And when you place this on there, you want the flat sections, the straight sections, to be nice and flush with each other. And obviously you want to get the AC Melon portion nice and centered so that these two little scallops here match up. Okay, so you're going to do this a total of 6 times. Very simple. And then we have all of our tiny little embellishment pieces ready to go for when our structure is all together. Okay, so that's that. Now I can take a look at the actual structure itself. You can see it here. Now you're wondering, why are there only 4 of these? Well, the handle actually has the other 2 built into it, okay? So I guess I might have said you have to do that 6 times. It's actually just a total of 4 times. Now while these 2 structural pieces are still flat, we're gonna take and actually glue this down. While this is flat, it'll just make it easier to work with. And this is a symmetrical piece, so it doesn't matter which way you put it on. It should fit precisely. Okay, so now here, it may actually help to, well, I'm gonna put this down on my surface here so I can get a little bit of contrast on there. And I'm gonna literally, for the inner portion of this, hit the same areas where I added glue to glue the vellum down. Okay, and then instead of, actually let me get a little bit in the center here, and then instead of dots around the perimeter, I'm just gonna kind of give it a nice thin line, very thin, kind of squishing it down and pushing it down, almost spreading it out a little bit with the tip of my glue bottle. Okay, so I'm gonna put this down here so I can, well, that's not helping. Actually, that does help better. That does help better. Is that even grammatically correct? I don't think so. Okay. Essentially, you just want to line that up with the cutout there so that the cutout on the panel matches up, and so that all you see when you look through is the vellum. Okay. So that looks good. Do the same thing here. And again, just hit the little areas where you applied glue to get the vellum to stick during that step, and that's kind of a good little guide to help you get the glue in the right spot. You don't want to get the glue in the cutout areas because that's going to kind of tarnish the the vellum. We want the vellum to be nice and clean. Okay, it's a little tough to see through the vellum here, but once you get it nice and flat, you shouldn't really have a problem. And then of course, you want to make sure that you have a nice even border going all the way around this, and that will also help you ensure that you've got the placement correct. Okay, and I'm just going to work our way around and do the same thing until we have all 6 of these panels in place. And then we've got a few of the other elements that we've pre-assembled. We can actually get those in place as well before we actually glue everything together. Okay, so you can see how nice that is starting to look. And I guess while we're here, we may as well just get this in place. These guys here are going to come down like this, and this flat edge is going to be flush with what will eventually be the top. And you can see here, let me see real quick. Well, we have, there's one little marker here that indicates that this is where we're going to put the handle. Okay, so skip this one. Well, let me just try to illustrate this a little bit better. I don't know if you can see that. Well, okay, so if you look at this tab here, you'll notice there's a marker there and a marker there. The same marker exists here and here, except in between it, there's just a little dash, like a Roman numeral 1, if you will. And that's just so that you know where to put these, so that when you assemble this, the handle, these two tabs will be on opposite sides, because we do still need to attach the handle. So skip this one and go over to the next one that does not have that little dash or Roman numeral 1. And we can apply our first piece right in there, and then just kind of tuck that in between the little markers. You'll notice that the little scallops there fit right in between the little markers. So first one's in place. We got 3 more to go. So let's just get those in their final destination. And we can move on to the actual assembly of our luminary, and then we'll finish it off with the handle, and then these little guys here. These guys are going to go right here just to add a little bit of contrast there in the center. Okay, so let's get the rest of our panels with our vellum in place. Again, I prefer doing this when it's flat because it prevents errors, prevents warping, and you just end up with a overall better looking end result when your paper looks nice and crisp and there's no creases or, you know, just looks nice and polished. There we go. Okay, moving right along here. Very simple project. I got a feeling that we'll probably be able to get this done in under maybe 15-20 minutes. So if you don't have a lot of time but want to create something to give someone, the assembly itself won't take you that long. It's actually not even a lot of pieces to cut out either. You can kind of pre-cut some things and get it prepped for when you're ready to work on it. That's kind of what I've been doing lately. Okay, there we go. Nice and centered. Beautiful. And the last one. Get that glue in the center. Hit some dots there where we have our previous dots. And then just work the perimeter. There we go. And pop that right into place. And there we have it. Okay, so again, we're going to skip this little one that has that little Roman numeral 1 or dash. Let me flip this over. I think it's easier to work this way. And we'll get the other 2 in place using our little markers here to help us with the centering. Here we go. And the last one. There we go. And putting this guy together will be a breeze. I'm kind of using my fingers here to ensure that this is nice and flush with the very top of this. We want it to be as flush as we can. There we go. Okay, so that's that. Now let's go ahead and put this together. First thing we're going to do is put these 2 sections together using these tabs here. Okay, so go ahead and grab your glue, pop it on this tab here, and I'm going to spread that out. Grab this section here, line it up right next to it. Make sure that these horizontal lines here match up nicely. Okay, there we go. I'll fold it back onto itself just to make sure that the alignment is accurate. And when we do that, you can see that this tab here is sitting perfectly on this tab here. And that's a good indicator that things are lined up. So just hold that in place, make sure that it's got a good grip. That looks good. Okay. And you can actually close this up now. There's not a lot of tabs. There's just a tab on top and a tab on the bottom. So we can close this up and then we'll work on the little secondary tabs there at the top and bottom to give it its ultimate shape. I'm still working flat here. Okay, when I bring this down, since this is a symmetrical piece, when we lay this down, it should pretty much find its home. I'll press that down, fold it over onto itself, and then press down on that seam there. I'm using my palm because I've got more surface area. I feel like I can push down even harder when I use my palm. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, so there is our structure. And now I can either do the bottom or the top first, doesn't matter. I'll move this out of the way. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put glue on these little tabs. So I'm gonna start here. We'll do this tab first. Just throw a little bit of glue on there. Just hitting it with my finger to get it nice and tacky. I'm gonna take that tab, pop it behind the neighboring section there, and glue that tab right behind this section here. Okay. There we go. Then we can move right along to the next little tab right here. Just throw some glue on there. Now if you want, instead of using your finger, just grab a piece of scrap paper and you can kind of use that to spread that glue out to the very edge and just kind of spread it around. I'll fold that in, grab that tab that we just put glue on and glue it to the back side of its neighbor right here. Okay, perfect. And again, next section, throw a little bit of glue on there if you want. Use your paper, spread that out nice and thin right on that tab. I probably will still use my finger because I feel like I have more control and accuracy when I use my finger since it's kind of attached to me. It's kind of attached to me. My finger is kind of attached. I can pull it off at any time. I'm a magician. There we go. Okay. Moving right along. Just a few more of these and we'll have this section all done. So again, just pop that right behind. If you need to move this out of the way, you can. Just fold it back. You might need to move it out of the way a little bit just so you can get a visual on that seam there. Make sure that everything is nice and lined up. And it is. There we go. And it just leaves a few more here. We'll go over to this one. Get our glue on there. Hit that with my finger. There we go. And just pop that right behind the neighboring tab. Make sure that it's accurately aligned. I've got this large piece kind of blocking your view. I was able to see it okay, so I'm not worried about it, but I'll move it out of the way. You can see how that is lined up, and that looks great. And that just leaves one more little tab here. Now, typically, and this always happens, when we have a structure like this and it's almost all together, it may be difficult to get your nozzle in there. So you may have to just kind of manipulate the piece by kind of moving it around. I'm kind of stretching it out a little bit, and then my finger might not be able to get in there. So I'm just going to use some paper to spread that glue out since it's literally paper thin. And then we'll take that tab, pop it right behind its neighbor, and just press and hold until it sets. Okay, so I suppose, you know what, we can just put the bottom on, that's fine. So here's what we're gonna do. Actually, you know what, let's do this first. Let's put the, let's glue these tabs together first because I think it's gonna hold its shape better and make it easier to put the bottom on. So just like we did before, we've got little triangular tabs here. Just gonna throw some glue on each one of these. Make sure you get that glue out to the edge and just kind of push that in a little bit. Get that aligned with the neighboring section and press that into place. Here we go, just like that. Now we've got our next little tab here. I'll move this out of the way. And just throw glue on, dab it, and pull that in. Get it lined up and press and hold. And you can see how much quicker that goes the less glue I use. You take that glue on It's going to take a lot longer for it to dry. You're more likely to make mistakes, so go easy and don't be afraid to get your fingers dirty. It really helps speed up the process. There we go. Just lining that right up. And literally by, just in literally 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, it's holding strong enough to where you can move on and start gluing the next section. So you're not sitting there for a minute on each little tab. That is not fun. Okay, there we go. And pull that in. And press and hold. There we go. Got a couple more. And as I mentioned before, once we get close to closing things up, we might need to use a piece of paper or something to spread that glue around. There's always the option of working from the inside. So you can always kind of just put your glue in from the inside like that. A lot of different ways of getting to that end result. So don't feel like, if you discover some new method or something works better for you, definitely take advantage of it and use it. And maybe even mention it to me and the rest of the group. I feel like I'm always learning new things when it comes to paper crafting. So, all right. Okay, so that top is done, and now it definitely is holding its shape a lot better. So what we're going to do now is take our glue, apply glue to all these tabs. I'm just doing kind of a little pigtail here on the inside, and then I'll do a nice thin line along the perimeter because I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edge, like so. And there we go. Get that right out to the edge. It's starting to dry already. So I'm going to need to reapply here and hurry up. Gotta hurry up. Might have to go in and touch that up, but we'll see. All right, so flare these up a little bit, and we're going to bring this down. You want to focus on getting it lined up with the side opposite of the side that is already hinged and connected. So this side here, it's facing me right here. And once that's in place, the rest of it should just sort of fall into place. You may need to kind of give things a little bit of a nudge here or there. And I have a feeling that I'm going to be doing some cleanup here, but we'll see. Okay, just press and hold that down, and you can flip it over and press on the tabs from the inside to make sure the rest of that tab is getting good contact. And we'll see how that turned out here in just a second. Take a look at that seam, and surprisingly, it looks really good. I thought for sure that glue would have dried out, but it didn't, so that's good. All right, now take your glue and do a little bit of glue around the inner perimeter there, right on the tabs, and then just a little bit on the inside. You're going to find this piece that has a little L cut into it. Actually, it doesn't. Since it's by itself. This one is already joined, so just find this piece and just pop it right inside. This is our liner. Usually we put a little L on there if the bottom is not attached to the structure, but in this case it was. So it's not necessary to label it as a liner since that's all it can really be anyway. Okay, so there we have that. And now we can go ahead, and we've got these prepped. I'm going to peel the backing off of these. Again, you are welcome to glue these on flat if you'd like. We're going to pop these into place here using my my foam on. It's like foam tape basically. Just cut precisely to the size that I need it, and just get that nice and centered, right in the center of your little sunflower. We're going to throw a little rhinestone on here when we're all done, just to kind of bling it out. And then finally, last step is putting our handle on, which is fairly simple. And we'll call this one another one in the books. Here we have it. You know what, before we do anything else, we're going to take our glue and just put glue on this little section here with the scallops just before. Well, just don't go over the little score mark there. We don't need any glue on this section here. This is the only part that is going to adhere to our structure. Okay, and you can fold this over just to make sure that when you do pop this on there, that it's nice and flush with the top, just like these. You want that to be flush with the top of the luminary. Okay, so that looks good. Now we go over here to the other side, get our glue on, again, just this little scalloped area, like so. And I'm going to spread that glue out, make sure it gets all the way around. And I've got a little too much glue there, but that's fine. Get that nice and centered using the little markers there to help you with your alignment, and just make sure that that score mark is nice and flush with the top of the luminary, and you can see how automatically it takes that shape on, okay? And we're gonna be patient here and make sure that this really fully sets. Okay. Just like that. And all we need to do now is take this section and we're just going to glue it over this section here, and that should fit perfectly right on top and naturally will take on its assumed shape here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor this by gluing just this section down first. Normally I wouldn't do this with a handle because, well, it just doesn't usually work. But because it's kind of petite and small, I have a feeling that using this method will be okay. Okay, make sure it's centered. So again, right now we're just gluing down just the little scalloped, like almost like a cloud, I guess, or half of a flower, just that section. And then we're going to put glue on the rest of it now and get the rest of it glued down just like that. Okay, so we can kind of let that dangle and get our glue on here. I'm just kind of do a little zigzag here, like so. And then of course, want to make sure that I get plenty of glue, not too much, but just enough right on that little scalloped area. And just take it. As you're applying it, make sure that you've got it as centered as possible. Lay it down nicely, and it should pretty much terminate right there at the score mark, and it does. And that was easier than I thought it would be. And just press and hold that right at the very end. If you need to give it a little bit of a nudge to get it centered, now's the time to do that before it fully sets. And then just kind of make sure you use your finger to kind of press down in the little areas here where we added our glue, just to make sure that it is in fact making nice contact. And there you have it. That's it. Very simple. And as I mentioned, I'm going to throw some little foam squares, little rhinestones here in the center. So what else are we going to do? A little rhinestone up here as well. And then maybe some little pearl drops or something around these little areas. But anything you want to do to give it a little extra sparkle. And then of course you don't want to put a real candle in here. It'll burn your house down. So grab yourself a electronic tea light, pop it in there, and enjoy the little ambiance that we just created with our all new lantern. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please take a moment and visit our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell so that you get notifications anytime we release any of our videos. And if you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it. And so would the 22,000 plus other dreamers that inspire us daily. So thank you so much for visiting and hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.